This has been a long time coming. And in today's episode, today's live, if you don't get nothing else, man, we're going to get to the bottom of Bernhardt. We're going to talk with Mike about what it is to work there, how he got there, and we're going to talk some watches today, man. So welcome in, sir. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing all right, man. It's been a bit. I feel like you and I had back-to-back interactions there at these watch
Oh,
shows. So seeing you now, this is like the longest it's been since we've seen each other in a while.
yes, man. Yeah, man. You know what? Just to give you a little backstory, I got invited to DC Times and never been, right?
Yeah,
One of my buddies ended up calling me. I had another buddy that was there that actually did a video chat so I could see what it looked like. And it was popping, man. There was
yeah.
so many watches, I mean, watch people there, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So on this one, I did some research. I said, okay, I know this brand, this brand, this brand. I've never heard of these guys. Never heard it. So, and I think I showed you my notebook. I was like,
You did. You did.
let me look, let me check this out. You was on in the top five that I had to check out for myself. And man, dude, I was impressed off of the very first interaction, man. Um, so I did some digging on you, sir. I did some
Uh-oh.
digging on you.
Uh-oh.
And there is a picture on the website of a young Michael
Oh
and
yeah.
how he got started into
Yeah.
watches. Oh my gosh, man. What was it? What was the movie that got you like hype? Was it Clock Stoppers, Time
Clock
Stoppers, or something?
stoppers, that's right,
Clock
man.
Stoppers.
Yeah.
Nickelodeon Paramount movie.
Yep. That's right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh man, bro. So you are what's your dominant hand? You're left-handed?
I'm lefty. Yep.
Yeah, okay, okay,
But I
okay.
still wear the watch on my left wrist. So I know it's backwards, right? I think that picture that I have up on the website where I told the story too, it's like
Yeah.
you can tell that it looks a little awkward on me, putting it on my right wrist where I'm kind of looking at it like this doesn't feel right. I've always been a little ambidextrous, but it's kind of you've got folks that are predominantly right-handed that are wearing their watch on their right hand now, right, or their right wrist. So I think it's really
Right.
just where it feels comfortable. But for the benefit of the company, for all of our Instagram posts and pictures, it's probably best that I wear it on my left wrist because that's where folks are, more expected to see it.
Okay. All right. So welcome in chat. And I do want to say if you guys are catching this on a replay, which I know some of you guys are at work, so on a replay, feel free to go down in the description and check out Bernhardt. But let's dive in, bro. Let's dive in. So for those that have not read the about section of your website, you're a part of a team and you weren't a part of the original team.
That's
And
right.
I want to know, I am so curious because upon my research, the term Fred head was just plastered everywhere. And I was like, what the heck is
Yep.
this? What is and bro, take me to the time where you and we'll go back to your like your history of like how you
Of
got into
course.
watches, but I want to go to that time. What was the watch that got you just like head over heels with this company?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. I've not actually been asked that in a long time. I open a drawer because I have a drawer here at my desk with every Bernhardt that we've made that we haven't
Ooh.
sold off and whatnot. But it was this one here, right? So it's a Binnacle GMT2.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
it's got the
white diamond.
stainless steel fixed bezel, white dial, 12369 numerals. It's got the old Bernhardt font on it, right? So it's
Oh man.
it's a really classic piece. I saw it online a bunch. I'd moved up here after college and whatnot, and was like, oh, I'm in North Carolina now. I got to get a watch. I need to do something, and I found Bernhardt through a Google search. I saw
Mm.
this watch, and I was like, I need to have it. There's no way that I don't get this watch. So I called the number on the website. Fred himself picked up, and I was like, oh my god, like that's I've never bought a Microbrand before. I at this point had some Seikos and G-Shocks. Started with like Fossils and Invictus, so never in a million years did I think I'd like call a phone number and get in touch with the actual owner and founder of the
Wow.
company. Um, Fred was super nice. He was like, drive up on Saturday, and I'll show you what we've got. Take a look. I'll open up the shop for you in High Point. It's only about an hour or so from where I live. Drove up, looked at it in person, couldn't decide between the white dial or the black dial. Was back and forth for the entirety that I was there with Fred. Talk about it a bit more on the website, but we're talking about like a 4-hour interaction that my
Wow.
wife was upset about because I was supposed to go up there, get a watch, and come back, but I was there all day. And it was great, deciding between the black and white. Fred finally said, "Look, take whichever one you want now. And for the next 2 years, if you change your mind, just give me a call and I'll switch the dial for you." And that customer service, that ability to ensure that, and be able to forge the opening, I'll say, of the relationship, not just with Bernhardt, but for me to the broader microbrand world, it was just incredible. I did keep the white dial. I never took him up on the offer to change it. It's funny because a lot of folks reach out and ask about the white dial specifically, and they're like, "Are you sure you don't have one lying around somewhere?" And I'm like, "Well, only one I've got is the one that's sitting in this drawer, but that's the only watch that I ever officially bought from Fred." And so now,
Mm.
partnering with his wife Jamie and leading the company forward, there's just about nothing that could happen that would drive me to get rid of this one.
Oh no, you man, that right there is a grail, it's an heirloom. That's passed, like you pass that down. You have like that is to kids or whoever or me. I'm sorry, did I say that loud? No, I saw it online and I said that is
Yeah,
amazing. And the first thing I thought about was, and I know I was going to ask you that question about that watch. If that watch was to come back out, well, you had to commemorate that with a coin. If you guys ever, I'm just throwing that out there, like throwing some ideas, because I know you have
yeah,
customers that throw ideas out there. Because since me and you've been going back and forth, I've actually watched YouTube videos that date back 11, 12 years with Burn, and I'm like, wow, how did this it flew under the radar to me. It
yeah,
flew for me, it flew under the radar, but I read through, I don't know, countless amount of things online. I looked at Google, I looked at your reviews, I looked at we just had I think my dude watches in here. My dude watch just talked about brands that you never heard of, right? And as he was going through, I was like, I'll always type as I'm watching. And I was like, I've never heard of any of these brands. And then Bernhardt was at the very end. I was like, oh wait, I know, I heard about this. I actually got to watch, which my
yeah.
wrist I have. And listen, bro, this one, you know, wait a minute, hold up, I wrote it down. The
Uh-oh.
captain's watch. The captain's
Yeah.
watch. Who, who? Now I was military, and y'all, there's so much to this company that y'all need to know. So you guys support veterans, military, Marines, which
Yeah.
I was Army, and my first duty station I was up north, and my first task was to install a communications radio for one of the Marines, and I rolled with him all day. I was his radio guy. So me and Marines, I love Marines. I served with them when I went to Iraq.
Yeah.
So when I saw the story, I was like, oh, I definitely got to buy from this company. I like you guys got me. You
Well, we were
got me,
glad
man.
to.
Yeah, man, you
Yeah, I
got
think
me.
the commitment to first responders, police, fire, sheriff, military, was always at the core of the company. That's really how we started, and in truth, that's why you've not heard of Bernhardt to this point. The
Mm,
Fred heads were a self-anointed and proclaimed division of Bernhardt that Fred never anticipated, and that he was just so fond of. And it all started in the forums. The
mm,
company's website is relative to other folks in the industry, right? Relative to folks that started a brand and started a website the same day, or a Kickstarter, these types of things. We're well behind all of them because we've been around for 20 years and the website has not been around for 20 years, right?
mm,
A lot of how Fred conducted the business was through person to person interaction. He was all over the forums, right? And he was answering the phone, he was texting folks, he was emailing folks. When we had a new watch release, some folks that are subscribers might know that now we send out a nicer newsletter, similar to things that you see with some other brands with pictures and links and that type of stuff. I love going back to some of like the core emails that Fred would send when he's like, oh, hey, we've got the new Captain's Watch coming out. It was maybe a paragraph. Hey, new Captain's Watch. Here's the specs of it. Let me know if you want it. And he would just field the customers or field the sales via email. And that's just how
Mm,
he did business. Real salt of the earth guy. Absolutely loved interacting with every single person who wanted to support his company. And because of that, there wasn't ever a big marketing push. He was busy enough by
mm,
the forums and the emails and the Fred heads and these types of things. Now, the industry has definitely taken a turn, right? There's a lot more micro brands in the space now, which is a positive thing in many regards. Obviously, there are downsides from a competitive perspective.
right.
A quick anecdote on that, right? Micro brands, in my experience, being a collector and now being with Bernhardt, it's not it's not always a competition, right? The odds of any individual micro brand collector having only one watch are incredibly slim to none.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you've got one micro brand, odds are you've got two, three, four, five, 10, 20, 175, So the way that I see it, and that's why we're always so friendly with these folks at the shows and whatnot, is they are genuine friends. It's not this bit where we're secretly hoping like, oh, I hope they buy our watch instead of your watch or this watch or that watch. No, if our watches are for you, great. And if not, I hope that you support this community because everybody is working collectively so hard to preserve a certain integrity in the micro brand watch world. And we're just stewards of that messaging. But now
Mm,
that other folks have entered the space, and now that the newsletters are getting prettier, and now that the websites are starting to get uh, a bit more complex and involved, when we lost Fred in 2022 and I came on board with Jamie, we really talked a lot about how we can make sure that we're keeping the name at the top of people's minds and reaching folks like yourself who have been collectors and been in the industry but maybe weren't lucky enough or didn't have the opportunity to have that in person or face to face or virtual interaction with Fred himself. So that's where,
mm.
the latest push is coming from and trying to make sure that the social medias are up to date, the website looks good, the newsletters are going out with a somewhat regular frequency. It's all to make sure that, the folks that we didn't have the opportunity to reach before, we can still share Fred's legacy with now.
Gosh, that man, that's huge, man. I'll tell you the one thing, and I'm gonna actually read a quote from Fred here in a second. Um, we do have some people in the chat. I thank you guys for being here. And on the heels of what you just said about reaching out, and we talked about the micro brand shows. You had a question. Vic asked if are you going to wind up in New York?
We are not. I'd really love to be part of the wind up series. What we do every year is we plan out everything in terms of cost, expense, and
Right.
timing, as well as market, right? And how we're positioned in that market and how we want to potentially introduce the brand to folks there. Wind up, unfortunately, in New York coincides pretty closely with the birth date of my second son, which is
Oh
upcoming
yeah.
soon. So it'll
Congratulations, bro.
thank you. We're very
Yeah.
excited, but our shows will expire for the year at Intersect in July in LA. So that'll be the last one that we do. That's the last one my wife is going to let me travel for and be part of until to the 2026 cycle, and we'll reevaluate from there. That's a
Okay.
long way
Now
of
this
saying
is
no, we won't be in New York, but I'd love it if we were.
no, that's perfect, bro. And the second question, it coincides with that. Me and you, I had sent you a message. This is actually coming from Kokomo Watch Company. And I told them that you couldn't do it, and they
Yeah.
said that anytime in the future, if you wanted to, when they did this, you can send product there, right?
Oh
We can
yeah,
work some,
yeah.
yeah, we can work something out. And if you're agreeing to that, we can definitely have you represented there, easy peasy.
Yeah, I
That's
appreciate
coming
that.
from Kokomo Watch Company. Um, so with this whole thing, I'm gonna tell you, and I'm glad you said that, man. It's interesting. Family is important,
It
right?
is.
Um, the other aspect to that, I want to ask with that, with you guys being 20 years old since like 2005, that's like the beginning of YouTube.
Yeah.
That like you guys are like you OGs in the game, and I can appreciate what with Fred. His when I looked at Fred, I thought about the Empire commercials, the 588, 2300 Empire. It's like because that's what I get from
Yeah.
these people, and I didn't even know the guy, right? And I'm
Right.
like, dang, I missed out because the one thing I love when I go to these events is the first thing, like when I talk to you, you had a smile. You said, "Hey, how you doing?" And I was like, "Dude, I've been wanting to come over here to check this out." And you gave me. I actually have it on. I recorded it. You gave me the spill, gave me the whole
Yeah.
thing, and it wasn't like you was reading off a board or something. I'm like, okay, this guy really, like, hey, check this out. Look, put it on your wrist. Like you were just telling me. I'm like, hey, shoot, don't threaten me with a good time. So I want the people in the audience, man. For
Yeah.
those that didn't get to experience Fred, now every website that I've been to, if somebody had some type of a quote, it was real quick. It was like one
Mm,
line, right? Not Fred. Here's Fred. Everyone deserves a quality timepiece in the experience of buying it. I believe the relationship and goodwill between our company and our customers is the most important aspect of what we do. The customer is right, their expectations should be high, and they will make a friend in the process. I said, okay, that dude, that right there just added to the purchase of this watch, man.
yeah.
And I greatly appreciate. Now I just want to correct something. There was the question of, do you guys ever discount the watches, right? Is there a promo code or something like that? And do you do that with the newsletter, or is it once a year? How do you guys discount your watches?
Yeah, so we run a 10% discount if you sign up for the newsletter, and we can tell you more about the brand and upcoming releases and those types of things. Outside of that, we really try to avoid discounts as best we can. There's various reasons for that. The primary one being for all of our legacy models, we've maintained all of the pricing that Fred set
Hmm.
before he passed, which at this point, has been about 3.5 years. So we've not increased prices from that point. And that's very strategic on our end. We've not incurred a higher cost. We had a lot of the product and it's just assembly from our in-house watchmakers and whatnot. And so we've wanted to be fair to the customer. Because of that, though, we don't really have much opportunity and we have to value our product. And so we try to limit discounts to extenuating circumstances. If an individual on an off chance has a bad experience, or if, you know, Christmas is around the corner and enough folks are asking, or those types of things, it's something that we entertain. Historically, the company, if you look on forums or you look on from 2020, the Black Friday deals and stuff, you'll see that
Hmm.
Bernhardt did used to pop up on there. But what we found with that is that folks became incredibly cyclical in their buying patterns and almost wouldn't buy unless they had a discount. What's unique about the micro brand space is margins are, for the most part, largely known throughout micro brands. There are brands
Hmm.
like Christopher Ward who pioneered their entire company by being transparent about their costs
Right.
and how their costs are built into their pricing. And when you look at that relative to some of the larger brands, we just don't have the same capacity to be able to absorb those losses, if you will. And so
Mm.
it's always dependent on circumstances and things, but we do try to maintain pricing of our product year round, sans the newsletter concession that we offer to folks.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you this. As a consumer, as an enthusiast, I do. You're right. There's so many different watches. I have so many different micro brands as well as major brands. We have somebody in the chat, a guy by the name of Jay Jones. He has a few brands, but he had his man. This dude, I think he's probably counting about 1,200 watches in his collection. I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. I think about 1,200 watches. And I'm sure that he's going to be getting a Bernhardt pretty soon.
Yeah.
Hint, hint. No, but seriously, um, there are so many different brands, man. And so, how do you guys approach that? Like, if nothing else, what would you say as one of the representatives of the company? What do you guys stand out for? You know what I'm saying? Like, what sets you apart from other companies?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I think the biggest thing is longevity, right? If you look at the broader Swiss watch industry or European watch industry, or even the heritage American watchmakers, coming out of the New England area, the heritage there is centuries, right? You think Breguet, you think these types of folks that have operated for a very long time. In the microbrand space, we are one of the first pioneers in the area. Fred helped pioneer the American microbrand watch movement 20 years ago in
Mm,
2005. So when you're buying from Bernhardt, what makes us different from buying from a different micro brand is that heritage and that history. Our products have been tried and true. We've sold tens of thousands of models over that time, and still to date, with our largest customer base being first responders, police and military, we've got watches that have really stood the test of time. No pun intended. Our watches have been worn in active combat zones. They've been worn in the line of duty on a daily basis. And these
mm,
folks keep coming back and buying more. We've got an in-house watchmaker, so all of our repairs are done in-house by the same gentleman that's been by Fred's side since the beginning. His name is Frank. He's an incredible guy, and we're really lucky to
wow.
have him. But so when you're buying from us, you know for sure that someone's going to answer your email. You know that if you call, someone's going to answer. It's probably going to be myself or Jamie, because we're the only two people that are involved in the company. Let me say this: if someone else answers your email, I'd be a little concerned and maybe reach out to me, because if it's not Jamie or I, then I don't know who has our passwords, and that's not a good idea. Um,
Man.
but it's really just an ode to the heritage that we've helped pioneer as a company, and a testament to the quality that we deliver with our watches, and that's really what
Okay.
sets us apart.
Okay. So I will tell you, there were several reviews. As a matter of fact, so I know, so I have on a retro world. For those that don't know, I purchased this the retro world. I loved it. So you have this in green, and then I believe white, it
That's
like
right.
white and blue,
Yep.
something like that. So the thing about this, I love like that 60 70 vibe to it.
Yeah.
I love the thickness of it. Absolutely. And I love that bracelet. Now, one of the reviewers 5 years ago stated that they had the binnacle diver, which is similar to this. This just has a world time function. They mentioned that this like was grabbing, snatching hairs out of his wrist, right? Well, I can tell you guys this. I got a hairy wrist and I haven't had any problems like with this thing. Really nice. I love the heft of it. One of my like everything about this watch is great, but I love a oversized crown. Man, that
Yeah.
crown is so big, man. It's crazy. Of all of the watches that you guys have, and you can't choose, you cannot pick the one that you got from Fred. You can't. That's cheating. That's cheating. In your current lineup right now, what is the watch that you gravitate to the most?
That's a tough question.
Hmm.
I'd probably say that the one that I wear the most is the starboard. The reason for that is, when I joined the company so many years ago, initially I had just offered to help Jamie steer the ship and with anything that she needed. And as we, sorted through emails and got passwords and access to websites and started to get organized a little bit, there was a pretty big need for a new model, and you have to tread lightly when you've worked with when you're working with or for a brand that's been around as long as Bernhardt. There's a huge margin of error where you don't want to be the one responsible for coming in and you don't want to be the one that's responsible for coming in and ruining a legacy, right? By releasing a model that everybody kind of goes, what to? And so designing a new model, there was a lot of hesitation. There was a lot of anxiety around it. The starboard took the better part of a year and a half, 2 years to develop. And that wasn't because of proprietary movement designs and in-house complication and this and that. It was really because there was a lot of obstacle for us to get over as a team of how we were going to approach the future of the company and what we thought made the most sense for
Mm,
for Fred's legacy. Taking the company a step forward and modernizing some of the line is something that was incredibly important to us. And the starboard for me just represents not only a great step for the company in terms of bringing something completely new to the market, which is really exciting, but also, a real personal triumph of taking the leap from collector and enthusiast to actual watch designer, somebody that drew something on a sketch pad and an iPad and did renders and prototypes, to actually, like being able to hold the watch in my hand now. It's just, it's such a, it's such an experience that's really hard to put into words,
right.
being able to make that journey from collector enthusiast to like, oh my gosh, like this was something that I had a hand in, I helped design. It's
Wow.
truly spectacular. And no matter how many designs we go through with Bernhardt and how many future models we release and the entirety of the future of the company, this will probably always be my favorite for that reason.
Mm. So
Where,
you started off as a photographer,
yeah,
come on board with the company, which like I thought was so weird because like you've been to so many different watch fairs and all of us look we're crazy about watches, but like who would ever like that's like a dream come true that you
yeah.
get to work at the place that you shop with. Oh man, that whole concept is like bonkers to me, right? So you go from that to like you're helping design. Could you show the watch? The
Yeah. This is it here. This is the starboard.
so
So
I
it's a
know
texture dial, day-night indicator. It's a lot of fun.
that's a beautiful piece. What was it? Watching James was looking at that watch. He mentioned he commented on that watch. That was the first piece I've seen at when I was in DC Times. I was like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
this thing is nuts." And you're talking under $800,
Yep.
right? High beat movement. You got a complication that I've seen people look. YouTube will say you really don't need a moon phase complication, but dude, having a moon phase on your watch at that price point under because one of my favorite moon phase watches is in the was it Longines has one
Mm-hmm. And
and
their triple
the heritage.
calendar.
Yeah, oh I
Yeah.
love that watch, but that's $2,500.
Right.
Well, hold up, they just went up, so it may be like 2650 or something like that. Which you know what, I did see a video from 5 years ago, the Binnacle Diver, and then there were a couple of that did this 2 years ago. The price is still the same. I was like, wait a minute, the
Yeah.
price is that is crazy. So you guys are literally living out his dream, and especially in today's industry, like the economy is like it's scary. Let me just say that the
It
economy
is.
is a
Yeah.
scary place, man. And hopefully you guys have have a contingency plan to you know what I'm saying, like to put in place because gosh, I would hate like from what I've seen, and granted, I'm the newest. I'm not saying the newest customer, but I'm new
Of
to
course.
this company, and I'll tell you this: I'll buy again because that Starbird. Oh no, I'm gonna tell you the other one, the Tempest, because it has the meteorite in it.
Oh yeah,
You
that
guys
one.
have
I've
to
got
look.
that
You
one here
guys
as
have to
well.
go. Ooh, okay. Talk. Okay, whose idea was that?
So the reality when you're ordering watch cases as a micro brand, right? A lot of folks have this idea that we can just order one off, and you can. Let me be clear about that. You could order just one watch of any design that you could think of, but it's going to cost you an infinite amount of money, right? What's tough sometimes about the industry is that you always have to meet certain minimums and everything. So when we ordered the starboard, we really thought through the future of not just the starboard design, but what other variabilities or variants we could do with it in the future that would make it fun. We historically have had a PVD watch in the collection through the Anchor model. And to a more historical degree, the Binnacle Diver itself was offered in PVD for only about 6 months or so until that sold out. But we thought through and we're like, okay, PVD is fun. Let's give it a shot again, and let's try to have a little bit more fun with it. We wanted to keep the same complication of that rotating disc for the day-night indicator, and then it just comes down to the dial and the overall theming of the watch. Inspiration for watches comes when you're designing them in a multitude of forms. It's a bit wild how inspiration will kind of strike, and you're like, hold on, has anybody done this? And then you have to like go to Google, and you're like, oh man, someone's done it. And it's an industry that's been around for hundreds of years, so of course it's hard to be truly unique, and you're always going to pull some sort of inspiration from what's out there while still maintaining originality. For this specific model, when Jamie and I were chatting about it, we thought through, the starboard is a part of a 3-watch series, travel on the horizons, the horizon collection. The starboard represents the sea with the ship's deck pattern or texture on the dial, the blue tones, the sailing vessel on the back of the case back, and then the waterproof straps. So the Saffiano leather with the rubber backing, making sure that you can still swim with it and everything like that. Next step, we were between the air or the land, and we thought, well, if we did the air, how could we make it different? What's important for a pilot's watch is that it's legible. So legibility was of
All right.
paramount importance for us. And then we started to play with the idea from there. Well, okay, you're traveling by air. What's happening? It's beautiful clouds, pretty skies, and maybe you end up on a white dial. And that was okay. And we sat with that for a bit. And as the idea just continued to develop over the course of a few months, it struck us where we were like, why don't we try a dark dial? Why don't we try a dark, moody, stormy night in the sky? And I was really inspired by some of the storms. I grew up in South Florida, and a lot of times down
Mm.
in South in beach towns and whatnot, when there's thunderstorms off the coast, folks will go to the beach to watch the thunderstorms. It's pitch black, and you just see these strokes of lightning coming through that light up the clouds
Mm.
for a split second, and it's really gorgeous to watch. And we thought, for the Tempest, why not approach it in the same direction? Why not have this PVD watch with these yellow lightning strikes running through it, and with this
Mm.
forged carbon dial that gives it the illusion of that stormy cloud type scene? And it's hard to capture on camera, but the ability to kind of
Gosh.
grab that, it just makes it a lot of fun. The sun is yellow, which then drives home that theming too of the lightning, and the straps that we include it with, are thematic as well. So it was a really fun project. I personally, in my collection, I'm kind of looking around, do not have anything else that's PVD. So it's exciting for me to get to wear one. But it was a fun model. And so travel by sea, travel by air, travel by land is next. That one's still in production, and we can't
Mm.
talk too much about it. But we're looking at a different complication, one that seems to be requested quite often, and one that's been part of my Bernhardt story since the beginning. Um, so I won't give any more hints than that, but we're truly excited, and we're looking forward to what's next on
Hey man, you listen. Watch enthusiasts love to hear like what? Wait, what did you say?
that.
What you just said something new on the horizon? Um, I have to say, Michael. First impressions are lasting impressions, and my first impression of you was great. And I imagine that was Philip that was there with you, right? Was it
That was a buddy of mine, Alex, that's
Alex? Okay.
been with me since. He's a best friend from high school. We went to college together, and he offered to join me. We knew that the District Time show was so massive and had such a big audience that I would have hated to have not been able to speak to everybody or introduce them to the brand. So we brought him along
Mm.
to be able to to kind of help manage crowd control a little bit, which is such a beautiful and great problem to have, that so many people were interested in coming and speaking with us. I was honored by it, beyond words that I can put to that emotion. And having him there as a help was really great.
Okay, okay. Well, I tell you what, I was impressed with the overall like presentation.
Thank you.
And of course, this one was the one I gravitated towards. Uh, and I don't think I saw the Captain's Watch. Well, I saw the Captain's Watch online,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you this: being a veteran, that watch is something that I'm familiar seeing like an actual officer wear in garrison, right? We're not in wartime, we're either training, he's coming out giving a class or just teaching or something. That's a watch that you'll see on there. And I was like, you know what? Um, I pretty much plan out what watches I'm gonna get. Sometimes there's a spur of the moment because this wasn't on my radar for the beginning of the year. Y'all listen, Mike said, "Hey, look, Trap, come here, come over to my office, man." He twisted my arm. He's like, "You're gonna get this watch."
I did.
But it was more of the presentation and not knowing who Fred is.
Yeah.
I can say this personally: you do a good job at carrying a legacy because we talk about that, because watches, you can buy a watch that's on sale, right? And it's like, hey, I want it because I that's what I like. But then there's watches that have a story behind it, that has a meaning behind it. You had mentioned earlier that like you have Seikos, you had
Yeah.
Invicta and stuff like that. And one of the conversations we had before, I actually have this right here. It's not an Invicta. This is an Imperius, right?
Mm.
But Invicta bought this, and from the information I got, and the information is no longer viable online for whatever reason. Um, it was a young man that started this company, and it didn't go well. Invicta
Mm.
bought it, and this right here is called the Shattered Glass, right? And we'll never know the actual story. Somebody knows the story to it, but like I
Right.
want to know outside of this, man. It's like because you have a Salida 200 powering this thing, and I'm like,
That's
what
gorgeous.
was your inspiration behind it? What pushed you to make this watch in the shape that it is? But this is what I love about microbrands, right? Versus,
Right.
a Tissot or a Hamilton or something like that. I get to talk to you
Yeah.
directly and say, hey, what is this? Why did you do that? And I'm getting back to the price. And I understand and I can respect anybody that like, listen, I'm a consumer too. And I want the cheapest price. I want the
Yeah, of
most for
course.
the least. That's just people, right?
Right.
But for $430, that I'm telling you, is amazing. And I know you just announced for those that just got here. I appreciate you guys being here in the chat. Um, I want to acknowledge you, Jay Jones, Long Rangers here. Lee, haven't seen you in a while, Lee. Welcome in. Warren, thank you for being here. Oscar, and anybody that's watching this on the playback, um, please just check it out. Share this information out because I'll tell you what I do like. This isn't just a transaction with you, right? This isn't just, oh, I just got another watch. I can hit that check mark saying, hey, I got another brand. I experienced it on to the next. You guys have kept and maintained this whole customer like service experience, right? It's crazy. And I looked at Jamie. I looked at all your bios, right? And Jamie had posted what she said about her husband, what she felt, and there was a couple of things that stood out to me. She believed in her husband's dreams, and she wanted, just keep pushing it forward. And I thought about this. She lost her husband
Right.
in 2022, and loss is harsh. And then, like, I don't even know what that means to or how that feels to still push a business. So I want to talk about you go from photographer. What did that conversation look like? I mean, what sparked it? What, like, okay, did you say you went to her, or like how did that conversation go?
Yeah, yeah. So it was really facilitated through a family friend. Despite my interactions with Fred, moving from customer to friend to photographer for him. I had never met Jamie. I'd seen her picture on the website, with him and the Bernhardt family, and I'd never met her though. I'd really only got to meet Fred in person on a couple occasions on account of COVID. Right after him
Mm,
and I met, and I was able to go up and buy this watch. The world shut down a few short months later, and things changed. So I never got to meet Jamie. I didn't know how to contact her or anything like that. Fred, where we talk about the friendship of Fred, outside of watches for a minute, he was just an incredible guy. He reached out to me one time and said, one of my son's friends, and this kid's like a son to me. He's moving to Charlotte. I know you live there. Would you be okay spending some time with him? Chatting with him on the phone, or I'm going to give him your number. He's going to reach out. He just needs help finding an apartment, and these types of things. And Fred was such a good guy that I was like, I'm not gonna just call this kid. I'm gonna actually try to help him out. So I called him, and his name's Jack, and he's been a great friend, not just to Bernhardt, but to me personally. And I called
right.
Jack and was like, hey, when are you coming down? Let me take you to lunch. Let's chat about it and everything else. So took him out for a lunch, and first thing he says when he walks in to the restaurant is he's like, "You're Michael." I was like, "Yeah, man, it's really nice to meet you. Sit down. Let's chat, Charlotte." He goes, "Well, Mr. Amos told me to make sure Michael's wearing a Bernhardt watch," and I was like, "Oh, don't worry, I." But I Jack and I kept up for years and years, and still touch base today from time to time. And after Fred passed, he was a bit of a resource for me. I had reached out to him and asked, hey, I know you're close to the family. I know you've probably spoken to Fred's wife. How are they doing? Is there anything I could do to help? Not, oh, is there a new watch I need to photograph or anything? There was never a monetary relationship with Fred at all. It was purely just for fun and for the enthusiasm.
Mm,
And so when I asked if there was anything, he did bring up, he's like, she's struggling a bit. She doesn't quite know what's going on with the company, and she's having a really hard time. And so I told him, I was like, look, if it's appropriate and if you feel it's appropriate, give her my number, tell her that I'll make any time for her that I can, just to see if there's anything I could do to help. And Jamie and I spoke on the phone maybe a week or so later, and was only supposed to be a short chat just to express my condolences and see if there was really anything I could do to help her. And similar to that first interaction I had with Fred, instead of just a short chat, it really turned into an entire dialogue on the call, and about Fred's legacy and how I
mm,
valued their friendship, and even just sharing stories of things that, experiences that I had after shooting for Bernhardt. I reached out to Fred and said, "Hey, I'm going to this watch fair, and I'd love to talk to some brands about maybe doing some work for them. Like, are you okay giving me a quote?" And like the full recommendation that he gave me of the care that I showed the watches, but the integrity that I carried as a photographer and as a trustworthy person to take in these. It was really great. And so the offer to Jamie was, anything that you need, I'm here for you. And what we agreed on at the end of the call was, we'll give it a shot for 6 months, and we'll see how it goes. My experience entirely from a professional perspective was more in business management and financials. And excuse me, I'm getting over COVID myself here,
yeah,
so
I
if I'm
know,
a
I
bit
know, and I
nasally, but I'm
appreciate that,
trying.
man.
Of course, of course.
No, man, listen, y'all, listen. I'm gonna tell you, and I didn't mention that. I wasn't gonna mention it, but we were supposed to do this Saturday,
Yeah.
and he said, "Hey man, look, I'm sick. I got COVID." You know what I'm saying? And he still tried to muscle through, and I was like, "No, no, 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 bro. Get yourself together, and you know what I'm saying, and do your thing. Plus, I know you're married, bro. I understand your wife is not about to be mad at me. Like, who is this guy trying to get you?" So
No,
I
she
greatly
she
appreciate that.
appreciates that. Yes.
I
But
I agree, greatly appreciate it.
yeah, my experience really didn't extend beyond that business management or more financial type lens, and that's where I started helping the company, was just trying to get the books organized. At that point, to be perfectly candid, there wasn't an idea or a pull from one way or the other from Jamie in terms of, do we close up shop? Do we keep things going? And a lot of my
Mm,
job in those early days was to look at, any type of organization and filing that we had to try to put it together so that we could make an informed decision, or I could show her, call it the baseline, the hard facts of the business and what it takes to run it and these types of things.
right.
Um, in doing that, Jamie and I just formed a really great partnership, and really great love and friendship. And she's Jamie and I have a standing call every morning at 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. I call her on my
Mm,
way into the office, and we talk for half an hour about various things, not just happening with Bernhardt, but in the industry. Jamie's biggest concern in the beginning is she'll be the first to tell you watches weren't her passion; they were her husband's passion, and she was always supportive
mm,
of it, but it wasn't her dream. And now Jamie's dreaming about watches, whether she likes to or not. But
wow.
the real turning point came after that 6 month period. Jamie's really guided by her faith, and prayed on it, and ultimately came to the decision that we're keeping Bernhardt, and we're going to go full speed ahead, and we're going to keep the company open as a way to maintain her husband's legacy, and that's what he would have wanted. And so from there, the focus shifted from, all right, how do we just get organized, to, okay, how do we run this meaningfully so that we can spread the word and folks know about the company, and we could keep the legacy alive. So it's been a big transition. it's been
Wow.
um, it's been polarizing in some ways, right? Because you see the industry from the enthusiast perspective, where you could
Hmm.
just read forums or articles and listen to podcasts, or watch channels like yours, right, for fun.
Right.
And it's a soothing activity, right? It's something that you can enjoy in the evening, or something you can enjoy in your off time. And then when it becomes the equivalent of like a full-time job, it changes things a little bit.
Yeah.
And not in a bad way at all. It's just a different view. And in the beginning, I had some challenges with that, right? Like, oh no, watches are kind of work now, right? Is there's still that joy? And then you see something in the metal that you designed,
Mm,
and you put it on your wrist, and you think back to the iPad sketch. You think back to chatting with Jamie, chatting with Philip, chatting with Taylor, chatting with the manufacturing partners about the small, tiny details of the watch, and you look down on it, and instantly that passion reignites. And since then, there's not been a shadow of a doubt of my passion or commitment to loving horology, and to being on this side of the
mm.
industry. The lasting note I'll say with that is, after designing a watch, I can tell you that as an enthusiast, I had an opinion about what everybody did. I would look at watches and wonders, and I'd be like, this is great, but they should have. It's
Mm,
funny how when you get to this side of it, and you realize that the font size being 1.1 versus 1.12 versus 1.16
mhm,
millimeters in height makes a difference. The case diameter, and its measurements, the lug to lug, the recessed edges that we did, for example, on like the starboard, there are so many small, intricate details that go into the process of designing and ultimately producing, and then photographing and marketing a watch for sale,
mhm.
that I have not since made any judgment or anything about any other watch that anybody has designed since I've been on this side of the table. So when things like watches and wonders happen, and folks are sometimes like, oh, how do you feel about this? Would you change, what would you change about this? Like, absolutely nothing. I'm certain they took a million hours looking at the exact detail that you're talking about, and they made the best decision for them. And I'm not going to say a word about it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's interesting, man. Like, 'cause I don't really think about that. Um, I'm fortunate enough that I have a watchmaker close by, which
Yeah,
right after this I'm going to visit, because I have to have my fix of
yeah,
watches. You know what I'm saying? Um, I want to, like, here's the deal, and we're gonna come back to that. I want to go back to when you were what 7 years old, right? You get your first watch for Christmas, and you put it on the. You tried to put it on the other wrist, non-dominant hand, and you're like, ah. From there, and I was reading this. You are a lover of watches and horology, like you said. Like, what watches inspired you? What did you look at as as a kid coming to a teenager up to an adult? What were your favorite watches to look at?
Oh gosh, really, really all of them. I've said this before, in some of the other discussions I've had. I was a huge follower of Hodinkee in the early days, of that publication. I was lucky enough,
Yeah.
to get to visit those offices, just as an enthusiast early on, and get to meet the editorial staff, which was really, really cool. I submitted a My Watch story during COVID of my great grandfather's watch that I inherited from the 1950s, that Fred and his watchmaker Frank ultimately repaired and fixed for me. So that was a great experience with Bernhardt as well. Um, the watches that I loved really were dive watches. I'd never scuba dived or scuba diving before. Um, and they just really spoke to me. I loved the bezel function. I loved the fun colors. I have an SKX. The Seiko SKX was probably one of the
Mm,
first Seikos that I picked up, and I just absolutely loved it to bits and pieces, and still have it and wear it often to this day. Outside of divers, I was never really hit by that vintage bug or the dress watch craze.
mm.
That's more recently come into trend or favor since I've been on this side of things with Bernhardt. And so that's made it, um, not difficult, but it's definitely opened my eyes to that side of things. And as I've matured in my own collecting journey and whatnot, I can say that I have maybe enough divers that the next watch should be an XYZ. But the watches that I do like traditionally, Jamie will give me a hard time because I think 99% of them are blue on at least some part of it, whether it's the dial, the bezel, the hand, or whatnot, or the strap. Right? I love blue
Right.
watches. Um, I like things that are versatile, that blend in with whatever you're wearing. Um, I'm a watch lover, man. The early days of TGV, right, on YouTube.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
The
yeah.
Urban Gentry. I got to meet him actually when I went to Wind Up just as an enthusiast in New York last year. I got the
Wow,
chance to meet
wow.
him and take a picture with him, and that was like, there are still moments that even though being on this side, you get to meet some of those folks and folks like yourself,
Yeah,
more
yeah,
frequently, and it's
yeah.
exciting as a brand, but also like the enthusiast in me. I was waiting in line like a kid in a candy store to take a picture with him, and I thought it was the coolest thing. Same with like Mark from Island Watch, getting to meet him
Oh, Mark's my
was
guy,
incredible.
bro.
I,
That's my
I
guy.
we were at a table near each other in DC, and I saw him walking by to go use the bathroom, and he probably hates me, but I stopped him and I was like, I got to stop you. I absolutely love your show, man. I've loved it since the beginning, and
Yeah.
it's really cool to be on this side, for sure,
Yeah,
and
you get
still
to
get
see
to
that
meet.
stuff, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, bro, that's great. I mean, because you are a part of a watch brand, but like even though you guys aren't on YouTube like that, you're still in that genre. And like I TGV came here 2 years ago to Indiana, and I saw it. I was like, dude, he's 29 minutes, 30 minutes away from my house. I drove
yeah,
over there, seen him. I was like, yo, I've been watching you before, like years before I even thought about jumping on YouTube. And like it was crazy. And there were people that didn't know him, but I'll tell you, that man has a passion for watches, and that's the thing that I love about it. And I got that from you. I got
yeah,
that from you, the way you were talking. So, like our second time seeing each other in Chicago, I was trying to get to you, and you were. It was so many people coming over, and there was a guy that had bought two of these, and he said, I talked to him after he made the purchase. He was like, "Oh man, it's a great guy. I got this one because my car it's the same color as my car." And I was like, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, I can't wait to get his size, and I'm gonna drive it today or whatever." So I said, man, and I saw you and there's other people, man, like Nomadic, Peter from Nomadic. I absolutely love them. They crushing it.
yeah.
They're crushing it, man. And I know we talked about, stuff. What is your like right now? What other micro brands do you like or that you like, you know what I'm saying, you appreciate that's out there?
Yeah, and I think this is a good note for us to close on just for timing. But the industry is really strong right now, man, and it's really hard to figure out what you're actually going to get and whatnot. I
Mhm.
can say that the next watch that I have coming in from a Microbrand is the new Notice that they did in a collaboration with Beers and Camera. It's essentially, it's got a bidirectional rotating bezel that you're able to use ISO calculations on for shooting film, and I thought that was awesome. I shoot film for fun sometimes, not necessarily
Mhm.
the Bernhardt stuff because it's harder to transfer over. But I just thought what a cool, fun, and innovative design and way to utilize a bezel for an atypical purpose. So that's the next one I have coming in. The folks at Nomadic are fantastic. I love their watches.
Yeah.
Folks like Eugene at East Stolman, right,
East.
with
Oh yeah.
watches like the
Yeah.
Earl. These
Yeah.
are like the malachite dials, Nathan at Trafford,
Oh.
he's a fantastic guy. The
Yeah.
Crossroads is an incredible watch. I have, I know Adam from Far and Swit. I have one of
That.
his
Yeah. Yeah. That's
pieces
my
as
guy, man.
well. He's
That's my guy.
fantastic. So it's hard. I'll say it's hard to go to these shows as an enthusiast, regardless of my own affiliation with Bernhardt, because you're seeing so many of these watches in the metal,
Oh.
which is such a cool opportunity as an enthusiast to
Yeah.
see a microbrand in the metal, to try it on, to meet the owner, to befriend them, to take them out for a drink and stuff. And so it's caused me to buy a lot more watches than I think I would have preferred, or maybe certainly my wife would have. But
Oh man.
we definitely like to support our friends in the industry,
Right.
and
Right.
that
Right.
just
Right.
extends to so many different brands that it's great to be a part of.
Okay, and with that being said, we are going to close this. If nothing else, everybody that's watching, if you made it this far on the replay, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I did leave a link to Bernhardt watches down in the description. This watch is very inexpensive, and they do have them in different ranges. I don't think they reached over the $1,000 mark, and I know that is important to a lot of you collectors. You want a lot for less, and I'm telling you from experience, I'm digging this one, but I do like the Starbird. Another thing I want to note and point out to you guys, the customer service is like A1. Their customer service is on par with Citizen, and that's based not from what I'm saying. This is what people are saying, and I literally read through nearly 100 comments. Yeah, and I've been reading it, and I saw the story about what Fred did, helping you redo your grandfather's watch, but they are supporters of military sheriffs. They have, I'm trying to think. Well, let me see. Hold up. I have it written down. Tunnels to Towers Foundation. You guys, please go check that out. I left that a description. I know we didn't get into it, talk about it, but I want you guys to do that. Y'all know how I support military veterans. I support cancer patients and survivors and stuff like that. They're supporting the families of men and women that served, that passed away, that died, and I'm talking about like smart homes and stuff like that. And you guys are supporting that. That was outside of watches, dude. That is where I live at, because as people, we need to help each other out, man. And I stand behind. I just want to tell you that. I know we didn't talk about this on the phone, but I support that wholeheartedly, and I hope you guys that are watching support that. Um, your closing words, bro. We're gonna get out of here. What else do you want us to know about Bernhardt Watch Company?
Yeah, I just say I'm real appreciative of you having us on and being flexible with this weekend and
No
whatnot. I
problem.
definitely
No
do
problem.
appreciate it. But it was a real joy to get to meet you in Washington and then again in Chicago. I'm glad that we were able to connect. I'm glad we were able to make this happen. For folks that have any questions, the Instagram, the Facebook accounts, the website, the emails, that all comes directly to me and to Jamie. There's no one else managing this stuff for us. So you're dealing with me. If there's any question you have about anything related to our watches, our missions, our custom work, our blogs, anything like this, if you're trying to pull a sneak peek of what we've got in the pipeline out of me, send an email. We respond to every email that we get from a real person. So we're we're trying to be stewards of this legacy as best we can, and knowing that we can't, serve in the same capacity or in the same way that Fred did. We're really trying to show folks and be there for them through the journey, so that we could deliver on those exact pillars that you brought up earlier, Trap. The quality watch at an affordable price.
Yeah.
Enjoy the
Yep.
experience of buying it and make a friend in the process, and that's what we
Yes.
stand for. But ultimately, I'm just so appreciative of this community. I'm appreciative of everybody that's listened to us ramble for an hour about watches. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just thank you for letting me be a part of it. Really.
Man, I appreciate you. Thank you for your time, man. Go ahead and finish nursing yourself. Tell your wife thank you. And to the family, the Amos family, tell them thank you so much
Yes.
for, you know what I'm saying, for what they do, what they mean in this community, man. It's more than just buying a watch, man. It's
Yeah.
bigger. And I always say it all started with a watch, man. I appreciate you guys watching. Go ahead and share this, man. Let people know. Tell them to go ahead and replay this and go tune in, check in with Bernhardt Watches, man. Even if you don't buy it, just send them an email like, hey, I saw you, man. You know what I'm saying? Salute to you and
Yes.
everything. So, y'all, you know what I say. Until the next lightning strike, you guys be blessed. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank y'all so much. Thanks.